Here. Great to be part of this roundtable with ULI. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for RevPAR International. We're a boutique hospitality advisory and asset management firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. I am based out of South Florida and take the lead on all of our Caribbean work that we've been doing over the course of the last, I guess I've been with the firm pushing 20 years now at this point. What I like about the Caribbean and what I've enjoyed about the Caribbean, beyond the fact that it offered me my first hotel job 25 years ago on a very, very small island off the coast of Puerto Rico called Culebra. But it has shown me, different parts of the world. I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed is obviously meeting and interacting with, it is so many different cultures and different people. It is a really, truly global destination. Even when you're on smaller islands, in some of the hotels that we asset manage, we've got as many as 60 or 70 different countries represented in terms of the labor force. So it is really kind of a microcosm of the globe, whereas that you don't see elsewhere in such small kind of intimate destinations. They really are quite unique.
Returns, Chris, ownership right now. The groups and the people that own these hotels are faced obviously with an insurmountable task. I mean, a lot of costs now are being thrown onto the balance sheets to secure the health of the guests and be able to create new protocols. But what about profit? And how in this cycle is ownership going to be able to figure out new ways to make money and to go forward?
Yeah, Adam, thanks. I think the most important thing that we've seen, we spent the first couple of months, I'm sure as Alex did, going through cost containment measures, trying to determine what various ownership groups were going to do with employees. We had some cases where ownership groups stepped up and really supported the employees and looked to support them through relief pay over a period of time. Other ownership groups weren't in the same position and were just looking to reduce their costs as much as they could as quickly as possible. So it's been a bit of a mix over the last couple of weeks and during the last couple of months. And during the last couple of weeks, we've really been focused on, to Alex's point, is what are the costs and what are the long-term impacts of these protocols? In some cases, we're looking at a 50 to 60% reduction in seating capacity in restaurants or in meeting space venues. And when you've got a hotel that was built, to accommodate kind of 30, 40% group business through the year and host groups of 200 or 300 people at a time, and all of a sudden you're down to 100 people, it's a very different animal. So it's how do we retool, how do we assist the sales and marketing team and give them the tools that they need to go out and kind of refocus their efforts on the new marketplace. So at least initially it is a focus on transient. And this has been across different hotel chains and different markets. We're seeing different responses. It is a focus on kind of higher end customers, at least initially, that are going to be willing to come back, making sure they feel comfortable, to Alex's point. But at the same time, also ensure that this, when we're looking at a luxury hotel, the idea of putting up giant plexiglass all over the lobby and stickers on the floor and stuff like that, we've got to massage that protocol to fit the product, because that's not necessarily going to make everyone feel comfortable. Then there's costs too. All the brands have come up, to Alex's point, all the brands have come up with their own different protocols and different requirements. And in some cases, there's some significant capital investment that they're requesting that owners make. And we don't know if they're all going to work, or if in 2 months' time we're going to just take all that stuff, put it in a closet, and put it away. In some cases, we've had management companies coming back and looking for a couple $100,000 worth of equipment just over this short term to fill out the balance of the year. So those are some of the things that we've been working on vetting and trying to understand. And then the other thing is this ongoing issue with employment. In some cases, we've had employees that can't get off islands. They've been stuck on islands because they're relying on expatriate labor, whether it's in Cayman or Anguilla or other places around the Caribbean, and it's just a matter of getting people home. But now we're looking at, okay, when we start to ramp back up, does it make sense to just keep them here as opposed to sending them home at this point? So it's been a mix of things. And I think the last and most important thing that both Nick and Alex mentioned is Lyft. We continue to be very concerned about what the future of Lyft is. Talking with some folks in the U.S. Virgin Islands the other day, they're one of the first islands to reopen and have direct access because it's a domestic market in the U.S. But they indicated that the number of seats that they've got inbound is about 20% of what it was prior to COVID. So they've got hotels open. They can't fill them because they don't have enough seats. And then the other thing that we're seeing as well is even you look at Southwest Airlines, they've come back and they're not going to reopen their Fort Lauderdale hub here into the Caribbean for a couple of months, if not into early 21. And they're using the excuse of the TSA shutting down their customs or the customs office shutting down their hall in Fort Lauderdale and forcing them to use another terminal. But in reality, it's a bit of demand issues as well. So those are the primary issues of dealing with this kind of short-term impact of what kind of capital investment is going to be required, and then also what we're going to do with Lyft. And finally, I will say that I think some islands are taking reopening are being a little bit more cautious, particularly with their reliance on the U.S. consumer base, where they've had relatively low number of cases. And they're kind of caught in this conundrum of, well, our consumer base is the U.S., but they have a huge number of cases. We have no cases here on our island. Do we open up? And a lot of islands are being put in that decision-making quandary. So that's a challenge as well.
When do you really see recovery coming back to the Caribbean? Is this something that's 1 year out, 2 years?
The balance of 20 is obviously going to be a challenge. And 21 Q1 is really where we're kind of focused to get an idea of what's really going to happen. The concern continues to be with group. We are seeing positive transient trends, but group is a really unknown factor. We've got one hotel that has seen a huge uptick in group pace, and a lot of it has to do with relocating demand out of 20 into 21. So how much of that holds, we're not sure at this point. We anticipate that some of that will eventually fall away. And then we've had other hotels that have just seen all their group pace kind of completely fall apart. And so, it's really shifting to a full transient model away from group.
Do you guys see development, completely being put on hold, or are there going to be some niche developments coming on in the near future?
We have a client that's going to continue to pursue a minimum of one project, if not two projects, over the course of the next few years. They view this as an opportunity to just kind of put their head down and keep going. They know the market's going to come back. It's going to take them, a minimum of 3 years from now before they can open the doors. So they're proceeding. Obviously, there are a number of other clients that have just kind of put the project on the shelf. And I think a lot of it has to do with, to Nick and Christian's point is financing or how well capitalized they are. If they're financing the project on their own, I think some of those developers are continuing it, but the ones that are out looking for financing are probably gonna have to put it on the shelf for a while.